Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about 13 things from the 1950s that kids today will never understand. The 1950s was a decade of prosperity, optimism, and conformity in the United States, but also a time of social and political change, Cold War tensions, and cultural shifts. Life was very different back then, especially for children. So, let's take a look at some of the things that were common in the 1950s, but are now obsolete or unfamiliar to modern kids. 13. Party lines. Before the widespread use of cell phones, people had to share phone lines with their neighbors. This meant that you could not make or receive a call if someone else was using the line. You also had to be careful about what you said, because anyone could listen in on your conversation. Party lines were cheaper than private lines, but they also caused a lot of frustration and privacy issues. 12. Milk delivery. In the 1950s, most families got their milk delivered to their doorstep by a milkman. The milk came in glass bottles, which had to be returned or exchanged for new ones. The milkman also delivered other dairy products, such as butter, cheese, and eggs. Milk delivery was convenient and fresh, but it also required a lot of trust and coordination between the customers and the milkman. 11. Drive-in theaters. Drive-in theaters were a popular form of entertainment in the 1950s, especially for teenagers and young couples. They allowed people to watch movies from the comfort of their own cars, while enjoying snacks and drinks from the concession stand. Drive-in theaters were also cheaper and more spacious than regular theaters, but they also had some drawbacks, such as poor sound quality, weather conditions, and distractions. 10. Fallout shelters. During the Cold War, many Americans feared a nuclear attack from the Soviet Union. To prepare for this possibility, some people built or bought fallout shelters, which were underground bunkers that could protect them from radiation and blast effects. Fallout shelters were stocked with food, water, medical supplies, and other essentials. Some people even decorated them with furniture and entertainment. Fallout shelters were a sign of anxiety and paranoia, but also of survival and resilience. 9. Polio vaccine. Polio was a contagious and crippling disease that affected mostly children in the 1950s. It caused fever, paralysis, and sometimes death. There was no cure for polio, but in 1955, a vaccine was developed by Dr. Jonas Salk, which could prevent the disease. The vaccine was administered by injection, and millions of children received it in mass immunization campaigns. The vaccine was a breakthrough in medical science, and it helped eradicate polio in the United States and other countries. 8. Sock hops. Sock hops were informal dances that were held in school gyms or cafeterias. They were called sock hops because the dancers had to take off their shoes to protect the wooden floors. Sock hops were a fun and social way for teenagers to listen to rock and roll music, which was considered rebellious and exciting at the time. Some of the popular artists and songs at sock hops were Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Bill Haley. 7. Hula hoops. Hula hoops were a craze that swept the nation in the late 1950s. They were plastic rings that could be spun around the waist tips or limbs. Hula hoops were cheap and easy to use, and they appealed to children and adults alike. They were also a form of exercise and competition, as people tried to break records or perform tricks with them. Hula hoops were a simple but addictive toy, and they sold over 100 million units in 2 years. 6. TV dinners. TV dinners were frozen meals that came in aluminum trays, which could be heated in the oven and eaten in front of the television. They were introduced in 1954 by Swanson, and they were marketed as a convenient and modern way to feed the family. TV dinners were popular among busy and working parents who did not have time to cook or eat at the table. They were also a novelty and a treat for children, who enjoyed the variety and the packaging of the meals. 5. Duck and cover. Duck and cover was a civil defense drill that was taught to children in schools in the 1950s. It instructed them to duck under their desks and cover their heads in case of a nuclear attack. The drill was based on the assumption that the blast and the heat from a nuclear bomb could be reduced by hiding behind a solid object. Duck and cover was a way to educate and reassure children, but it was also a way to instill fear and obedience in them. 4. Poodle skirts. Poodle skirts were a fashion trend that originated in the 1950s. They were wide and circular skirts that reached below the knee, and they had a poodle or another design appliqued on them. Poodle skirts were worn with petticoats, sweaters, and saddle shoes, and they were a symbol of femininity and youth. Poodle skirts were popular among teenage girls, who wore them to school, sock hops, and other occasions. 3. Jukeboxes. Jukeboxes were coin-operated machines that played music from records. They were found in diners, bars, and other public places, and they allowed people to choose and listen to their favorite songs. Jukeboxes were a source of entertainment and socialization, and they also influenced the music industry and culture. Jukeboxes helped spread the popularity of rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and other genres in the 1950s. 2. Soda fountain inns. Soda fountains were counters or shops that served soda, ice cream, and other treats. They were operated by soda jerks who mixed and dispensed the drinks with flair and skill. Soda fountains were a place to hang out and have fun, and they also offered a variety of flavors and combinations. Some of the popular items at soda fountains were root beer floats, banana splits, and malted milkshakes. 1. Roller skates. Roller skates were shoes with wheels attached to them, which allowed people to glide and roll on smooth surfaces. They were invented in the 18th century, but they became more popular and accessible in the 1950s. Roller skates were a form of recreation and transportation, and they were also used for sports and dancing. Roller skates were enjoyed by children and adults, and they were a part of the 1950s culture and lifestyle. So these are some of the things from the 1950s that kids today will never understand. Of course, there are many more things that we could mention, but we hope that this video gave you a glimpse of what life was like in the 1950s. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more. Also, let me know in the comments what other things from the past you would like me to talk about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.